of San Juan at 6 p.m. May we rise for invocation? Mr. Arjona, can you lead us?
You, Father, as we gather today, we thank you for all the blessings you bestow upon us. As we start tonight's meeting, we ask for those less fortunate. We ask for your guidance and wisdom as our elected officials make important decisions that will benefit our city. We pray to you up in heaven. Watch over us and always, as we always pray in your name. Amen.
Like for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Ms. Diana, under public comments, is there? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Arjona.
Public comments, Mayor, Commissioners, good evening, staff, community. Mayor, you want to change the order?
Yeah, let's go ahead and I at this time I'd just like to just go out of order under. I want to go ahead and move under the ordinance.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, that'll be B and C. Under ordinances, we have consider an ordinance amending the Chapter 3 Building Regulations, Article 3.05, signs by amending the Section 3.05.014 to conform with state and federal regulation and by adding Section 3.05.017 to prohibit signs on public property, providing for an effective date, providing for publication, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for a repealer clause, and ordaining other provisions related to the subject matter hereof. Mayor, I'm sorry? The ordinance, Mayor, the commissioners, it's there within your packet. It's on page 77. We looked at it with the city attorneys, and they came up with these recommendations based on what we saw at the last election. So this one pretty much is just the building regulations. Do you have any questions on that so we can discuss? Unless you want me to go through them and read them.
It's just briefly what, as far as building regulations.
Okay, so if you look at the bottom page on 78, where it says, now therefore be it ordained by the City Commission of the City of San Juan, is the City Commission hereby amends Chapter 3 Building Regulations, Article 3 Signs, Section 3.05.014 Political Signs by deleting the stricken not provisions and adding the underlining provision is depicted below. So one of the things that they did was political signs, if you look at number 2, may be placed, erected, and maintained on private real property within the city with the consent of the property owner. And the sign does not have an effective area greater than 36 feet. The sign is not more than 8 feet high, and the sign is not illuminated, and the sign has no moving elements. Political signs that meet the requirement referenced under paragraph 1, the one I just read, of this section shall not be placed, erected, or maintained within a right-of-way, an easement, or other encumbrance dedicated to the city for use of the property for a public purpose. All political signs that do not meet the requirements referenced in the section under paragraph 1 must be located in a C-2, which is a commercial district or less restrictive zoning district, and must conform to the city sign regulations under the article and applicable to signs in those districts. That's on that particular one. Now, the signs that prohibit on public property, it should be unlawful for any person to place or cause to be placed on public property any sign not expressly authorized by the public entity controlling said property, and no political signs or political issue signs shall be placed on public property owned and or controlled by the city except as follows. So one of the recommendations was on polling places is no more than 25 standalone or state political candidate or political issue signs of not more than 3 square feet each, and 1 4 feet high by 8 feet width standalone or state political candidate and or political issue sign may be placed or erected in the areas designated for the placement of such signs on public property near the entrance to polling places designated for voting in the election for which the signs are placed, provided that such signs are not placed or erected on the driveways, parking areas, on medians within the parking areas, or driveways on the premise of a polling place. This provision does not apply to signs that are lawfully attached to vehicles that are lawfully parked at the premises of a polling place. B, the allowable signs under paragraph A shall not be placed or erected more than 24 inches above the ground. C, The signs placed pursuant to this section shall not be placed or erected before the day before such voting is to occur and should be removed not later than the second day after the voting on such election or referendum occurs. D, the signs placed pursuant to this subsection should not be placed in the right-of-ways or easements dedicated for public use and must otherwise comply with the applicable state and federal laws. So pretty much that's the whole extent of the amending and adding.
And this is for the B and C?
No, sir, this is only
This is
for
B, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and so I guess, Arjona, for the record, the whole purpose of us, bringing this up to the commission was because I know you mentioned about the last elections. You got numerous complaints about having trailers on the streets and, the 8x16 trailers. I mean, that goes for both sides, parties that were running during that election, am I correct?
That is correct.
And I know that, and I'm pretty sure some of us here also got complaints in reference from the citizens saying that it was just uncalled for. It looked like a circus. We as a city, we want to encourage people to come out and vote, but, we don't want them to feel intimidated having something like this, what transpired this last, and I'll say it's a school board race. And it's not only that, but there was some areas where these trailers were parked and it was a safety issue. I know it was brought to your attention.
Yes,
And,
we had a close encounter with one of our staff members almost having a
Okay.
car accident.
okay. I basically just wanted to just touch base of why we're bringing this ordinance up to the commission this evening, because I feel that, it's something that we really need to hear our citizens and do what they ask for. And I think, me personally, in my opinion, I do like the ordinance, and I think it's something that, I feel that needs to be done. Any questions for Mr. Arjona or any comments from the commission?
And this is only limiting the amount of signs
Correct.
to be placed on the polling places.
Correct? No?
We had one too many at the last election, and like you said, it discouraged people from coming over and voting. So this will make it cleaner, a more appealing place to come out and vote versus having 1,000 different signs.
So pretty much each camp will only have one
One
4x8
Yes, sir.
and 25 yard signs.
Yard signs,
And it's up to them how they just basically want to spread them out.
right.
Am I correct?
Within the polling place. yes.
Exactly, within the polling
Yes.
place. Okay, any questions?
Yes, Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Juan, I'm gonna go to page 79. On letter number 2, letter B, I know that you redacted the portion where it says the sign is not closer than 20 feet from the back of the curb if located on a corner lot. That has been removed. So now there's no limitations? They can just go as close to the curb as they want? Or
Actually,
There is limitations, and all I did, Commissioner, on that is I tracked the language of the statute.
okay,
Now, on the statute, it doesn't say about the locations at all. So that's why I removed that, because I didn't want, we corrected basically your ordinance because it was having more restrictions than what the law calls for.
right.
So I went ahead and removed the location of that. So now I made it simpler is you can have it within your property, but you just have to stay off the right of ways. So, on each lot or whatever, there's so much of inside the curb line of somebody's property, there's a right of way. So as long as you don't erect on a right of way, you don't have to go back to 20 feet, because it was more restrictive than what the state law mandates.
Right, and I know the city of FAR does have it that way. Because in the last election, they had the guys out there measuring to make
Yeah.
sure that they were not impeding, especially the vision
So-
of vehicles coming in and out.
And why they have that on far, that's their deal, but what I did is, the recommendation on behalf of myself and Chris Palacios is, why don't we just track the language of the local government code? The local government code has nothing about get 20 feet or anything like that. It just says you can't have any moving parts. You can regulate moving parts, you can regulate illuminations, and you can regulate the number of square feet, which is 36 square feet. That actually tracks on the statute, on the election code statute. And what we did is we tracked it it's, section 259.003. And on subsection D, it has only that information, the 36 square feet, the 8 feet high, illumination, or the moving elements. That's all it talks about. Our previous ordinance regulated further by saying 20 feet within somebody's property. It's our recommendation that, that's too many restrictions that are put on there, so we basically recommended that we take that off and just recommend that it's not, that the property sign is not erected on a right-of-way of a city. That's it. And it'll make it a lot easier. Somebody could have challenged and say, hey, how can you regulate me putting a sign on my private property and I'm still within the 36 square feet, but I'm not even on your right-of-way, but I'm putting it within 8 feet, which is outside the right-of-way. They could challenge our ordinance and say that ordinance is unconstitutional.
Okay,
So therefore, I went ahead and took those linear requirements off.
okay. And the other one, Mr. Palacios, number 4, as far as the removal of the signs, I know this clause was there and would, I guess, guide the candidates to make sure that the signs were removed within 7 days after the election. So we're removing that, so in essence, there's no limit. The signs can stay up as long as,
No, there actually is a removal provision. There's already a since right here we put within the statute, we're just going to go ahead on the local government code. They already have it on 259.002, and basically it states there on the code, it states there on or after the 90th day before the date of the election to which the sign relates. And then on the removal, it already has the ban before the 10th date after the election date. So it actually has more restrictive, and so our ordinance before was making it giving them too much power to have the signs there longer. But the state mandates are much tighter than that, so we're basically removing it, so that way we just track the state law versus coming up with a law, since there's already something written on that already.
okay.
So the reason we removed this, so we don't have our ordinance saying one thing and state law mandating something else.
And that portion that you just read is not included in the packet?
No, because what I'm doing is, it already exists, Commissioner.
Right.
So there was no sense in restating the ordinance or whatever, so we basically removed it, so that way we could just track whenever that issue comes up, we refer to the state law.
It's safe to say that if we don't have it here applicable in this ordinance, we can actually just go back and follow the.
And you
existing law,
follow the
right?
local government
Okay,
code,
gotcha.
that's correct.
And I understand that, but I just want to make sure that it is addressed, because I would hate to approve something like this and then it's not addressed in the official document,
Yes.
and I don't want to waste time.
So
having
what
to
we
come
can
back
do,
and forth.
Commish, is, one, we can track the language of the state code. The problem is sometimes those state codes change.
Right.
And so when they check, because before, I'm sure it was written this way because probably the state code had it differently. So we don't keep up with the state code. The state code could change, and then we have an ordinance that's outdated. So we can, one, if you want, we can track the language of the state code, or we can remove it completely, and we already know to refer to the state code because there's already a law for that already.
Yeah. I think that
Whatever you prefer. But we can include it and track the same language, or remove it
No,
and
or
go with the state
just
code.
remove, remove it.
And if we need that exam,
Right.
we can always, if you need.
refer
yeah.
to.
But not only that, it may change.
It could change, it
Right.
could change, which I think the ordinance before probably tracked another election code statute.
Correct.
And it changed now, and so now we're having to clean up the ordinance.
Now, I'm gonna go back to, the next page, page 80. I know Mayor referenced on, 2A, as far as the number of signs, the standalone signs, it states here 25, but here it says political candidate. And I know Mayor, mentioned about slates. So that's my concern. The verbiage, because in our area, we tend to run in slates. So I would hate to have each one of us say, pues, I'm allowed 25, I'm allowed 25, I'm allowed
Now you
25.
multiply it by three.
Right.
That is a great point of,
How can we?
that is a great point, and I think what we probably, I can further look at the language, or there's a motion to accept it with amendment to try to curtail that.
Right.
Maybe we can go with the type of, the sign, if the sign is similar to this, if we basically say, 25 similar signs of the same party or the same slate or individual, whatever, so, so that way, it could be more clear, because the last thing, you're right, you could say 25,
It can be interpreted different
and,
ways.
and somebody could say, hey, well, those are my 25, these are my 25, and these are my 25.
Right.
Or sometimes interpret the
If,
same
if
slate,
the code
as long as
wants,
it's
if the
25
council
across the
wants
board.
that,
right?
uh,
As long as it's within the same slate, regardless if it's different color or anything, if it's the same slate, we can still
Red, white,
mandate.
and blue, each should have
Right.
the same amount, no matter
Right.
what.
so if I can, look at the statute or the proposal of that part, it was referenced on, what was it for?
I mean, it's 2A on that one.
Wait. Well, no. It's on 80, it's on 80.
Okay. Oh, what we can do, no more than 25 signs standalone or state political candidate or slate, we can add slate to that. So we can,
Well, that's why I mentioned on the record per camp.
well,
But
yeah,
it's-
but
but it's
our
not one.
ordinance is not written, and per camp is what the intent is.
Right.
But
But it's not.
we need to be more specific on the ordinance, so I'm glad that issue is brought up. We can, if there is a motion to accept it, we can do it with an amendment to, basically include candidate as slate. So we're very clear that each, either candidate or slate candidates have only 25 signs per, on a municipal, election site.
I mean, you mentioned the word similar also, that may.
Yeah, but I think either candidate or slate, or slate of candidates.
Right.
I think we probably need to input that, because it's gonna cause some confusion.
Right.
I apologize for
No, no, no.
for not even catching that.
That's all I had, Mayor.
Any other questions? All right, go ahead, make the motion.
I so move, Mayor.
I'd like to make a
With the-
motion to
oh,
approve
Sure, go ahead.
yes, amending and adding the word slate, as recommended by legal.
That's in a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Next item is consider ordinance amending chapter 8, offenses and nuisances by adding article 8.07, electioneering on city-owned or controlled polling place, providing for an effective date, providing for publication, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for a repeated clause, and ordaining other provisions related to the subject matter thereof. Again, there's the definitions of the electioneering. If you like, I can go through them, or just go with the purpose of it, which is the purpose of this ordinance is to provide a reasonable regulations. That's on page 84. It's for electioneering on city-owned or controlled public property. When such property is used as an election polling place, the regulations herein are to mitigate against any safety concerns, prevent damage to public property, and ensure that the property is sufficiently available for its patrons who use the facilities for activities other than election purposes. The regulations under this section apply to electioneering on the premises of city-owned or city-controlled property used as a polling place during the voting period. It is an offense for any person to engage in electioneering on the driveways, parking areas, on medians within parking areas, or right-of-ways or easements on the premises of a polling place. Also, this section should not apply to standalone or stake electioneering signs that are lawfully placed or erected pursuant to section 3.05.017 of the city's code of ordinances, and electioneering signs lawfully attached to vehicles that are lawfully parked at the premises of a polling place. The areas to which these regulations apply during elections. Obviously, penalties, any person, firm, corporation, or entity violating this article should be subject to a fine not to exceed $500 per occurrence.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Arjona? And the purpose for this, Mr. Arjona?
Mayor, one of the things is that there was a lot of issues as well where people were actually crossing over that 100-foot radius mark. And it's pretty much just for that, for the electioneering, the signs. One of the issues that we had was that people were coming into the library that were not patrons, and they were talking to the patrons inside for the purpose of voting. So this way, it is going to ensure that people going to the library, only because it's here, it'll ensure that people going to the library is for that particular purpose. People parking in the area is going to be for patrons use only. There's going to be designated areas for people to come in and vote, but we want to limit and alleviate some of these issues that we had at the last election as well.
Any questions?
And
If
just
not-
so everybody understands, I went ahead and looked at the statute for that under section 85.036, and under subsection A, it says, a municipal may enact reasonable regulations concerning the time, place, and manner of the electioneering. I went ahead, after that, since that's all it said, I went ahead and started looking at some of these cases. There is a case that was pending out of federal court here, and where Starr County, where they wanted to make some reasonable regulations regarding electioneering, and basically the federal judge came down with some of the reasonable stuff. And so some of the reasonable stuff is obviously opening up the parking spaces for the daily use of the facility. That's reasonable. The number of signs so you don't mess up the landscaping of the city, that's reasonable. So I went ahead and tracked the language of a lot of the stuff that the federal judge considered as reasonable regulations regarding electioneering, and tracked it and stayed with that case. And basically that's what I tried doing when we came up with some of the language, and then looked at some of the other cities to see what they were doing. And also that's where we got some guidance and tracked some of the language that other cities were doing también. So that's how I came up with that ordinance. And you know, it's all underlined because we don't have an ordinance like that one. So that is a new ordinance. It's not something that I amended for the city. It's something that I added for the city. That's how that came up.
Anything else, Mr. Palacios?
No, I just want to let the council know that.
Okay. Any questions from the members of the commission? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, sir. Go ahead and start.
Okay, next, I guess we can go back to presentations. So we have a presentation on departmental reports, Department of Finance, Fire Department, Police Department, Municipal Court, and Department of Utilities. Everybody should be here, ready, available, should you have any questions? Yes, Mayor.
Any questions for the directors that are present?
By Mayor,
Go ahead, sir.
my question, I don't know if it'll be addressed by Mr. Arjona or Mr. Gonzalez. What is the status on the COVID reimbursement money?
What, I'm sorry?
The COVID reimbursement money?
You know, we checked with the county.
Uh-huh.
They still have not released any of that information. And as a matter of fact, the last I spoke to Frank San Martin with Hollis and Rutledge, they were getting together with the county to see what the status on that is, and that was a couple of days ago. But as soon as I hear from the county, I will put it on the report, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, you're welcome.
That's all I had, Mayor.
Any other questions? If not, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you, sir.
Mayor, if I may, I
Go
just
ahead.
want to clear up the municipal court. There's going to be the amnesty program, which is going to be taking place February the 1st to April 30th. Just make a note. And we're going to be blasting that on the social media.
About
Yes.
to say, make sure that, you know, and maybe, I don't know if you want to reach out to the advance or whatever,
Yeah, we'll do that.
that a lot of people see that,
Mhm.
look for that
Yes.
particular, those programs,
do it.
okay?
Okay.
Thank you, yes.
Other than that, if not, let's go to public hearings. The first one is called the public hearing to solicit input from interested parties on the city of San Juan needs under the Urban County Program fiscal year 2021. As always, every single year, there's different entities coming before the city requesting for funding for their programs. Mr. Escobar, and there's a few that we just got today, a couple of entities. They're not on your packet, but we just received them today via email. However, this is on your public hearing.
Okay.
Question?
Mayor, Commissioners, this is a public hearing for the Urban County funds. Each year we get funding that's allocated. This is for 2021, fiscal year 34. We're going to get $301,060. Some of the that were submitted were Nuestra Clínica. They're asking for $25,000. Capable Kids is asking for $10,000. That's a new organization. Amigos del Valle is asking for $10,000, and Casa is asking for $2,000. We also use that funding for street improvements. Right now we're looking at Alfredo Street, Jaime Street, Standard Street, and West 12th Street. We did get a cost estimate for about 310,000 and 95 and 956 for the streets.
How much was the cost estimate, sir?
For the streets, 310,000 and 956. If we did take out West 12, it would lower that to like 260. Yeah, 260,000. The 12th, West 12th Street. Yeah, the other streets are all together. So this is just a separate street that wasn't finished through the bond fund, the bond monies. Yeah, we still have to have the preliminary work plan is due Friday, but we have to submit the final work plan February 17th. So at the next meeting, we'll have the reading to approve this. So we'll make the breakdown with Mr. Arjona for the work plan, and we can present it, and if you guys are okay with it, then we can submit it.
Like to open this one, Mr.
Yes,
Yep.
At this time, I'd like to open this, public hearing, at 6:25 for the public. Anyone, for or against? At this time? For or against, anyone?
And we received those 4 letters, and that since COVID, they probably didn't come, but they would have liked to have come. So we did receive the letters, and they should, two are in the packet, 2 we got today.
Any question by the commission?
Mayor, if I may? You did mention, Mr. Escobar, that the cost of the street improvement project is 310,000?
310, yes.
And the amount that's allocated to the city is
Is
300?
$301,060.
Okay, so this will not cover, right?
It won't, no.
And especially we're gonna also do for the community services,
Yes.
right?
And we don't always give the full amount.
Right.
Sometimes they're okay with half, or
Right.
yeah, in the past we've given about half of those amounts.
All right, thank you, sir.
Anyone else from the commission? I'd like to, close this public hearing on A at, 6:26 PM. Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion?
It's not an action item.
no action, Mayor Pro Tem.
Go ahead, sir.
The next item is hold a public hearing for a conditional use permit to allow social event center Eventos Valadez at 909 West FM 495 Suites 12 and 13, legally described as Lot 2 McBride subdivision, as requested by Lilian Moreno.
This is actually, it's an event center. It's a new owner, and it's an existing plaza. It's at the Three View Plaza on Veterans and 495. So it's existing, we just have a new owner, so they have to go through the process as required by the zoning ordinance to apply for conditional use permit. We didn't.
Time I'd like to open the item B on the public hearing at 6:27 for the public. Anyone from the public for or against?
We didn't get any comments. We sent it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. They did approve it. They just made sure that there's enough parking, and there's been event centers there in the past. It's just a new owner that wants to apply, change the name and all that.
Any question by the commission? No. We're closing this public hearing under letter B at 6:28.
The next item is hold a public hearing for
Yeah, I believe you take action.
Yeah, on this one, we take action. There's a motion for this?
Okay, do I have approved? Motion approved by Mr. Ramirez. Second by Mr. Villegas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next one, item C, hold a public hearing for a conditional use permit to allow social event center My Baby Shower Party Place at 1201 North Raul Longoria Road Suite, and legally described as Aguilera Medical Complex, as requested by Mirna Garcia.
There's also a conditional use for event center located in Raul Longoria and Amy. There's an existing plaza. I believe it's owned by a doctor. So they're actually relocating from where the La Curva Plaza is at, because it's kind of small, to this larger location. But they're just going through the same process as required by the zoning ordinance. There is no opposition, and the planning and zoning, they also approved it as well.
I'd like to open this public hearing under letter C, 6:29. Anyone in favor or against for the public? Any questions by the commission? None? Okay, I'd like to close this public hearing under letter C at 6:29. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Guajardo, a second by Mr. Ramirez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance, Mr.
Item on the ordinances, consider adoption of an ordinance in first reading of the voluntary annexation of the 9.32 acre tract of land out of lot 14, block 47, Alamo Land and Sugar Company subdivision as per the map recording volume 1, pages 24 through 26, map records Hidalgo County, Texas, located approximately 3/4 of a mile east of Longoria Road along the north side of Nolana Avenue as requested by Juan Maldonado.
And this is this is a voluntary annexation. We've been going through the process for the last couple months. It's on Cesar Chavez and Olana on the north side. So they want to do a development. We did have the 2 public hearings, November 24th and January the 12th. And we'll have to have 2 first readings, which is today and February the 9th. Once it does get annexed, they have to sign the service plan, the city and the actual property owner. And then we'll send out letters to the appraisal, county, elections, TxDOT, all the entities as well, so that they know that it's city property.
Any questions by the commission?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Motion been made by Mr. Villegas, a second by Mr. Guajardo. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
We're going to cover item B and C. We'll skip over to discussion and possible action. We have the preliminary and final plat of the Starlight subdivision being 11.02 acre tract of land out of all lot 1 Layan subdivision and 0.60 acre tract of land out of lot 6 M&L Woods. Tract number 3 subdivision located approximately 1/4 of a mile east of Water Road along the north side of the frontage road is requested by Trevino Engineering. Mr. Squaw?
Yes, this is submitted by Texas GNS Investments on behalf of Trevino Engineering. It's a 4-lot commercial plat. It's also located in the Expressway Corridor District. The city engineer and the city staff did review. This is actually going to be the Polaris Indian motorcycle at this location. It's right to the east of Barrett Motors. Yeah. They're going to extend the 8-inch water line. They're going to loop it. They're also going to extend the 8-inch sewer line to that location. They've also dedicated their easements, 15 foot. And they're also going to have access to lot 4 through Sergeant Leonel Trevino. The other lots will be through the expressway. They're going to have on-site drainage detention to a 10-year, which will have to be approved through the Dow County Drainage District. And this, again, is for the Indian motorcycle, so it's going to be good for the city to have that development there. The Planning and Zoning Commission also did approve it as well. The Planning and Zoning Commission, they also did approve this plat as well.
Any question, discussion by the commission? Not? Do I have a motion? Motion been made by Mr. Villegas. Second by Mr. Ramirez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next item under B, discussion and possible action to start the City of San Juan Municipal Court Amnesty Program of February 2021. We kind of discussed this under the reports, but it's there for approval.
Any questions by the commission? Discussion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Ramirez, second by Mr. Villegas. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Next item on the consent agenda, we have item A through F. Notice that the commission can pull any item for further discussion unless you want to approve them as a whole.
Anyone have any questions with the consent agenda? Discussion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Ramirez, second by Mr. Guajardo. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Item on the executive session, we have the San Juan City Commission will convene executive session according with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Vernon, Texas statutes, and codes annotated, Government Code Chapter 551.071, consultation with attorney pursuant to Section 551.01771, consultation with attorney, discussion and possible action regarding pending litigation concerning the cause number C-2414-20-A, Hallmark Fire Apparatus Texas LLC versus the City of San Juan, Texas, in the 92nd District Court, Hidalgo County, Texas.
A motion to go into executive
So
session.
moved.
Motion been made by Mr. Villegas, Mr. Ramirez, second by Mr. Villegas. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
This concludes, we're going into our executive session at 6:34 p.m. I have a motion to reconvene.
So moved. Again.
Second been made by, first been made by Mr. Ramirez, second by Mr. Fajardo. All in favor say aye. Aye. All in favor say opposed. All opposed? Motion carries. We come back to our meeting at 7:10.
This time, we're recommending a motion to have city manager and city attorney, with regard to the executive session item, A1, to proceed as directed in executive session.
Motion been made by Mr. Villegas, a second by Mr. Fajardo. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Back to, do I have a motion for adjourn?
So move.
Motion been made by Mr. Ramirez, second by Mr. Fajardo. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Have a good evening.